Hello and welcome to another episode here. Today we are going to do an analysis of Fallout 76 opening when you first start a brand new game. It'll have the opening with the imagery and the music. We're going to kind of do an analysis of that. I've done one on Fallout 1, though I'll probably do a remake since I've gotten a little better at using the um, editor for that. So, anyway, that said, let's jump right into it. The opening is reminiscent of Fallout 3's opening with the words Bethesda Softworks when it first comes onto the screen, being very tattered and worn. So we have that look to it. That kind of plays back to Fallout 3, which I guess 76 has its roots in Fallout 3 since it's based in West Virginia and was mentioned in Fallout 3 in the Citadel, as well as a mention of it with um, the Mothership Zeta DLC. Now, the screen flickers to life in the classic please stand by screen, but it's in color. This is possible. We do know that all the television of Fallout up to this point had been in black and white. Fallout 1, 2, 3, New Vegas. Most of the screens have been in black and white. But um, it is possible with some organizations with wealth, such as vault-tec, who had incredible wealth, I'm sure. Um, they could have easily had color television sets to be put into certain vaults. As a matter of fact, though the early Americana is set on the idea of Fallout is set on early Americana of the 1950s. It actually uh, actual research into this has shown testing color broadcasts had been around since the early 1900s, like the 1920s and 30s. And the first fully color capable television sets was displayed in 1950. So, understanding this fact, which it shows much of the Americana of the 1950s, and you mix it with the different path that technology took in the Fallout universe, namely the use of the transistor, which in our world was invented in 19 was it 47, and but wasn't in the Fallout until 20 the year 2060 something. I could easily see um, in the latter part of the Fallout universe before the Great War, color television first becoming a thing. Um, you know, simply it might be developed in a different manner in around 2075, let's say. There started to be sales of color television sets in the Fallout universe, meaning some television sets were color, but an even greater number were black and white. So that is possible for it to have been in color. Now, we have a televised opening of Vault 76, where you can see the overseer sitting out in front with a figure of some sort. Perhaps he's a senator, a representative from West Virginia, or a member of vault-tec. Um, it's hard to tell, but he seems to be of some importance. Um, he's speaking. He does the entire speech we hear during the opening, and he opens his speech with the famous Fallout tagline of "War, war never changes." So we open with that. Um, as the video draws away from the close up, um, um, and away from the TV, we see um, where see the actual room of the player's um, vault dweller character. While all this while the speaker makes note of the almost constant conflict that has plagued the U.S. since its actual inception. Um, then we get an explanation of these American clashes, from Antietam to Amiens. Let's kind of go over that right quick. Antietam was a Civil War battle that occurred at Sharpsburg, Maryland, on September the 17th, 18th, and 19th of the year 1862, and was considered one of the bloodiest conflicts of the war. So that's one of the first ones mentioned, from Antietam, and they say to Amiens. Amiens was a Allied victory in France um, that helped to bring an end to the First World War, and it happened on August the 18th of 1918. So that kind of gives us a little further in-depth look from Antietam to Amiens. And next he goes from Okinawa to Anchorage. So let's take a look at it, since we've now acknowledged that. While he acknowledges Okinawa to Anchorage, we see troops in combat armor alongside um, armored carriers and tanks. But Okinawa, it refers to the Battle of Okinawa, in, of course, Okinawa, Japan. It took place during World War II, during the end of the conflict. and it was one of the final pushes of the Allies to push the Japanese back. The Germans had already been defeated, and of course, the Italians um, was the first one of the trios, the Axis powers. That's what I was looking for. The Japanese were all that were left, and the actual battle was quite a lengthy and bloody affair. It took place on April the 1st through June the 22nd of 1945. The Battle of Anchorage, on the other hand, um, as opposed to the first three mentioned, is the only fictional battle and took place in the Fallout universe's Sino-American War. Um, and it is known to have taken place from the winter of 2066 until January the 10th, 2077, when they finally was able to force the Chinese out of Anchorage, Alaska, um, and force China to fall back and defend um, the Chinese homeland. And these are the battles we have mentioned, from Antietam to Amiens, from Okinawa to Anchorage. The next thing we see in the opening is vertebrates and vertibirds fly through the air, and the speaker mentions that the Red Menace is at our doorstep. And of course, he's referring to um, communism during the Cold War, which a lot of Fallout is based on that aesthetic of the late 1940s through the 50s and 60s, and even into the 70s. And the Cold War is a major piece of that aesthetic. And so the fear of the Red Menace or communism, it brings back a lot of memories of the 1950s Red Scare and the persecutions led by Senator Joseph McCarthy. Now, the next thing we see is a picture of a man in power armor with, as the line, democracy itself is under the threat of annihilation. So it's kind of an interesting, as it still smacks of McCarthyism, but democracy, as we know, if you're aware of the Fallout games, is more or less just an actual illusion of itself, um, and mainly just a term to inspire, since so much of the Fallout universe has fallen in on itself, and the supposed democracy is not actual democracy. Um, they turn back to the opening of the vault, And the speaker continues on. That's why today, July the 4th, 2076, 300 years after our great nation began. And as he says this, you see an image of the kind of arch over the front area of Vault 76. Its entryway, and it celebrates the tricentennial of America's birth, 1776 to 1876, 1876 to 1976, and of course 1976 to 2076. So yeah. Now, next thing he says, we gathered together to honor the completion of Vault 76. As he's saying this, we get an expanded look of the exterior of the vault door and the actual grand opening itself. This also sets in place the background of the game and, to be fair, the actual series in general. You know, with everything he said and the idea that, oh, vault-tec's just here to protect people, of course, we know isn't true. It really sets that idea that this is what happens. Uh, but as we know, Vault 76 itself is a control vault. It's not meant for experiments. But, of course, like I said, you have everything kind of backed away, and you see the vault door and the speaker, the overseer, and a number of other luminaries seated, as well as the press. You get to see the back of them taking notes and pictures. This sprawling underground shelter may have been engineered by vault-tec, but it was built by you. So he really wants to make it feel as if, no, we're here to help you save yourselves. So it's to really try. It's almost a piece of public relations spin for vault-tec. And as he says, but when he says this, we see vault members moving in, and then we see actual workers working on the vault's reactors. And like I said, the line for the scene actually suggests um, that the speaker may work for vault-tec as a PR rep. Like I said, we're not sure, but we kind of get that feeling. I'm not sure if he's a government representative or a member of vault-tec itself. They clearly want to make it, like I said though, they clearly make it want to seem as though vault-tec had only the best of intentions, though we of course know differently. Next is imagery of an exploding bomb with the speakers saying, So if the bombs do come, if the end does come, and of course gives us a bit of foreshadowing. We see that image of the mushroom cloud as the explosion happens, and it's almost as if, do they know? But anyway, next we see a picnic, and we hear, "Our way of life will endure." So again, we're drawn back to this idea of the Americana of the 1950s, the nostalgia of a better era. Um, and it's an attempt to spin the public relations by vault-tec. So yeah, but not everyone will be saved. Those chosen to enter this vault will be our best and brightest. Of course, this is played as we see the vault dwellers in a class with the overseer in front, kind of showing, this is what you need to think about. This is what you need to expect when you leave the vault. Um, and it kind of reinforces the survival aspect tied to the vaults, especially 76, which, as I've said before, is a control vault, meaning there was no experiment, just pure survival. For when the fighting has stopped and the fallout has settled, you must rebuild. So it's almost as you're special. This is, it's almost as if he's no longer speaking to the reporters or the vault dwellers, but as if he's speaking to you as a player. And to kind of reinforce this, we see the overseer um, going over again another lesson on survival out once they're out of the vault, as well as a look at the camp system, the construction and mobile platform, construction and assembly mobile platform, I believe. Anyway, so not only is this actually telling for the citizens of 76, but like I said, it is for the player as well. All this while keeping that very cheesy and campy feel of the 1950s Americana with its invulnerable optimism. You know, all you need to do is duck and cover, which of course we know now that's complete bunk. So, yeah. Um, not just walls, not just buildings, but hearts and minds. He feeds us this line with the image of the actual reclamation party the night before leaving. Um, and this only further emphasizes the feeling of being able to overcome any adversity placed before us. So, as we stand here today, we pray the world will know peace. But if that is not our destiny, if war does come, So once again, it's coming to the idea that, hey, we likely will have to fight. We get to see the actual vault dwellers chatting as they kind of file out on Reclamation Day, and maybe perhaps they're in anticipation of what they'll actually find on the outside, because as we know, it's been 25 years since the Great War, since the dropping of the bombs. So all they can really do is actually guess, um, make educated guesses on what may wait for them on the outside. We stand here together, knowing here in Vault 76, our future begins. And we see two vault dwellers embrace perhaps the last time they'll ever see each other. Because, like I said, they spent the last 25 years together. So who knows what's next? And everyone takes their first steps outside. And this is almost sets a feeling of eager exploration into a new frontier, especially as the opened vault is kind of covered with a bright white light. And that is the ending of Vault 76 opening. As you can see, there's a lot of Fallout Americana mixed into this, as is the case in some of the earlier entries into the series. Um, they want you to feel as if you can accomplish anything going out. So yeah. But anyway, that's our look. I hope you I hope you've enjoyed. Anyway, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. There's just some things I hear and I'm like, really? Really? This is why we need a more educated populace, honestly. But as always, I do appreciate you all, and I'll see you again next time in the next video. But until then,